Asteroid of fear.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. And we're seated in front of me, or actually on the other side of the camera, is Rich Vision or Rich Seeram. And we share the first name Richard, so kudos to that. Thought it'd be a good conversation, but how's it going today?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
I am good. It is where are you at in the world?
I'm based in Bushwick,
Okay.
Bushwick, New York.
New York? Sweet. Yeah, I'm in Texas and it is hot. Super hot. Oh, man. But yeah, so much like my life changed during the pandemic, so did yours. But of course, um, I feel like I've found in this phase of self-discovery that we almost have to go back to some of our childhood, some of our upbringing, and look at whether it's some of the things we've been told, led to believe, um, even by those closest to us, our parents, our grandparents, their belief in us. I believe it does have an impact. And, I come from a Latino family, and in the ethnicities, it's different. There's everything from high educational standards, or maybe like for me to be the first one in my family to go to college, but to also things like they don't talk about stuff. And when they don't talk about stuff, nothing gets addressed. And when nothing gets addressed, you go into your adulthood, um, kind of with an inability to self regulate because you never learn to co regulate.
Mm.
And so I
Yes.
definitely like to explore that and see how we got there. And then, like for you at 2020, we'll see what you discovered and how you got yourself out of that because, any listener here, at some point, you're going to come across a life change, be that death of a partner, a parent, or somebody. And, or maybe you lose a job like I did, and you're going to question your identity. And then you're going to need to strip it all down and rebuild. And that's the hard part. And I think we can get some actionable tips here, some things to put to use. And that's why I'm excited because I interview all kinds of people and then I do my solo stuff. And so surely between everything, you're going to find something you can kind of put into play. And that's kind of the goal here is to offer people perspective, let them know they're not alone. Somebody else has done this and they can do it too with the right tools and support. So,
Yeah, I love that.
where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and I was raised in Bushwick, Brooklyn, pretty much my whole life.
Did you any siblings? Was your family in tight knit or single parents? How was that? What did it look like? Because I know, like, I grew up with both parents in the household, but in a Latin family, you spend a lot of time with the grandparents. So, and even, as adults, our grandparents live with us. So, what was your family like?
Well, I had a brother, and then I had four sisters, and my parents were both, present, but I didn't find out until like later on in my adolescence that I was adopted.
Oh,
So, which was interesting to me because I always felt like they were my,
mm-hmm.
real family because the way they treated me with so much love and care. And then afterwards, I was kind of like, oh wow, this is interesting because I never really had um relations with my biological mother at all or my father. So that became a big mystery for me and how I was raised without really knowing. Pretty much a lot of my background was such a mystery to me still to this day. I don't really know as much as I'd like. So it's still unsettling in a lot of ways, but also a blessing to know that I was still under a lot of compassion, care, and love, which I definitely
My wife is adopted, and all my brother-in-laws. So the whole family. And so I can empathize with that. Um, to know how old were you when you were told that you were adopted?
I think I must have been in my probably like late either my late teens or early 20s, I believe, that I kind of just um dealt with that. And it was, I mean, it was unsettling, but at the same time I just felt like I knew like, I was gonna be okay. Like I know a part of me knew that, I
Right.
was gonna continue to strive and be good, knowing that I had a good foundation
Mm-hmm.
around me. So that was something that was always in the back of my head as I was
Um,
navigating.
did so how did you find out? And if you were told, was there a reason you were given for like the timing of it? Because, I think in those kinds of situations, depending on how young you are, how old you are, and the context of it all could matter. But I would also be interested in if whether it's your parents or siblings or somebody decided to tell you, why they decided to tell you, and why at that time they decided to tell you. Give us a little information about the timing of that and who told you and why, or how you found out.
Yeah, that's a good question because I believe I found out from my well, my mom was always saying that she adopted me when I was a couple months old. Like, she was always saying that, but I'm not sure how formal the conversation was in regards to like how actually like saying it straight out. But
Mhm.
I just know like it was my sister was more, I think, was pretty much telling me about how she was saying that there was a bad situation in regards to how my mother was and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I guess the story that supposedly she was putting cigarettes in my Pampers or something like that I've
Oh,
heard. So it was something that the situation was not in the best interest of mine at the time, which I didn't. I mean, I was 2 months old, so I didn't really know all of this. I was adopted at 2 months old, so I didn't really have
yeah.
the wherewithal at the time, like what was happening. I didn't even had, I wasn't even an adult,
Yeah. You weren't coherent
so,
enough to even
yeah,
understand. Yeah.
what was happening. So I kind of just lived my whole life with the whole mystery of like who were my real parents, thinking that they were my real parents. And not that I was ashamed of it. It's just like I still had a longing for wanting to know, who they were and kind of like, what the situation was, and their voices to voice out their opinions of what happened so that I
Oh,
could have
yeah.
more clarity in my life about what was the real reason. Because I think hearing it from somebody else's mouth, like it's easier to like come to conclusions and jump to conclusions for me if it's mom saying it, why she did it for me to adopt me, but exactly different from someone who actually did adopt me versus a biological, two different narratives. And
Yeah.
it's cool to just know what the facts were, and I think it will bring me a lot more like, I guess, a
Closure.
sense of ease. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a yeah.
Well, a way of going, do you ever have the thought of, I mean, if you were able to have this conversation and you asked and they were like, um, it could very easily be something as simple as, hey, I was young, I was 14 or 15, and I had no way to care for you. And my parents didn't want me to have this child. And so I gave you up to a loving, caring family. Or have you thought if, they straight up told you, like, well, we didn't want you. Um, I know that would make you feel, but you would still have the benefit of having had the family you had. And that's the hard part kind of about wanting to know and that closure is that, you know, do you ever would you ever be concerned that the truth would hurt more than it would be healing or give you closure?
Yeah, I actually thought about that too. Because it is still unsettling. It is a bit confusing, that dynamic of like what could have happened if, things were differently, worked out differently. And I just always thought like it would feel more hurtful to know that if she wasn't feeling she was fit, to take care of
Yeah.
me, that would be something that I feel like is real depending on her situation. But at the same time, if it was something like she doesn't want me, then I think it would definitely hurt me to
Yeah.
know that for sure. So but then at the same time, I just kind of will have like a sense of like, well, at least I know. But then
Yeah.
sometimes it's like things in life that I know for a fact, it still tends to linger.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the thing, like I don't know. I mean, um I get it like from my wife, and I don't ever push her around this topic or subject because I want to say I don't know if her and her brother at one point in time either contacted, did or didn't, or kind of a way of just looking at it of like, you know what? That was their choice. I'm grateful for the family that got me and kind of, I'm going to live my life knowing this and my allegiance here and I'm not going to let why they didn't want me, why they gave me up, impact me and carry it forward. They
Yes.
did it. And because they did it, the actions show what the words can't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
what good would it do? And but I can tell you too, that's one of the other reasons, my mother or I mean my wife is the kind of mother she is because
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't have that attachment to her biological mother, and so her the way she feels about her kids, it's super um you know it she has something that she never had as a little girl and she's
Mm.
able to have, and that's fulfilling to her, and I think that kind of maybe fills that space of that wondering, but
Yeah.
did that so what did you when you were coming up and growing up, what did you want to be, and kind of when you graduated, how did you come into the world of whether it be work or education, or what were you kind of doing in high school and what kind of plans did you have after high school?
Yeah, the interesting thing about high school was the fact that I didn't really have a hard set plan. I had ideas of becoming a writer,
Mm-hmm.
and that was interesting to me because I was always into writing when I was in um middle school, high school. So
Like
that was something that I
poetry
wanted
or
to carry.
rap,
It
or was it like,
was
music?
just like,
Or
yeah, it was actually journal writing I was into.
okay.
So I honestly thought like I really wanted to major which in journalism.
Mm-hmm.
That was so I took liberal arts when I first got out of high school, and I thought that was pretty much the path for me. I was assuming that, and then all of a sudden I just started to, music entered up my world, and it's kind of like this flipped the script on me, and it just really I started getting into poetry. Um, and all of a sudden, like I was just like, wait a minute, this whole different avenue just came, and I just felt the need to like, I don't know, to not succumb to just one
Yeah.
particular lane, and pretty much I was able to still infuse the writing with my music and with my poetry, which I feel like is a good blend. Anyways, so I felt like it worked out in my favor, um,
How did
fortunately,
you
and
discover that though? Was it like through a class? Because like I took creative writing
yeah.
in
Mhm.
college, and when I was doing my first 2 years at Palm Beach Community College, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna get my basics, but I want to take some stuff that I'm interested in. I took like art appreciation, music appreciation, but creative writing and literature, and literature became one of those things that I enjoyed doing even in when I went into my third and fourth year, kind of as my time
Mm.
outside of my stuff. But creative writing was one of those classes that I really enjoyed. So how did you discover that maybe was it a particular class? Was it a person? Was it something like you wrote that somebody else read and they're like, "Oh, maybe you really have a knack for this," or how about trying it this way? What was that discovery like for you?
Honestly, it was pretty much a self-discovery journey. So basically, when I was in, I say middle school, high school, I was doing journal prompts, and it was pretty much just reflecting about like what my day was. And I still have those pieces of journal entries about like, oh, this day went really bad, or this day was fun. And it was just like, I don't know, the thing about it was like it was so freeing and for me, and exhilarating in a lot of ways and therapeutic, and I just felt like, wow, there's something there. And I just explored that curiosity. I think that was the big thing about me, was I was curious what those words would lead to.
Hmm.
And it was like, wait a minute. And I just kind of started to just experiment with being a lover of words and just like expression and self-expression and in general. So I just was like, you know what, let me just, come up with these what I call little raps at the
Hmm.
time, and it just came into something that was poetry, that was poetic, and then it was just like, okay, maybe there's something there, and then I just started to more experiment on that level of there's something that I can use to like form into a song. And I started writing songs afterwards, and then I started writing a whole bunch of material that I didn't know back then would lead into, an entire EP afterwards. So it was just interesting how all those things played out for me.
When did so you've talked about the writing part of it, and kind of that self-discovery and thinking journalism, but learning that maybe you have a knack for that. Where does the music piece come in of, did you play any instruments in a junior high or high school? Did you mess around with drum machines? Did you have friends maybe? Where did the music piece come in?
I had actually, I really came from, I think it was just like, I don't know, I think at the time I was just like, I don't know if it was because I wanted to like do something that was, I don't know, maybe cool. Cause for some reason, like I can't really pinpoint like what it was, but like there was something about music that was like the same thing as journaling, was so like, oh my goodness, like I can actually put this to a beat and
Mm.
rap over it. So I mean, I was listening to like at the time like a whole bunch of like gangster rap, so that really influenced a lot of my earlier writings. So and then I was like, oh wow, this is interesting. But I didn't know it was me trying to fill a certain void
Mm-hmm.
at the time of like maybe wanting to like fit in or wanting to be validated or something maybe that I didn't really know. And I just was like, I'm just gonna put this out there. I mean later on, but it was just like, I don't know, I felt like it was something that I always tried to cover up, because I actually took only a few classes. Like I did take drums,
Mm-hmm.
um and then I also took choir. So I had a little bit of music, I guess musicality stuff, because I learned in school, but then I kind of just like put my head straight and then started just diving into this like the rap stuff. But I loved being able to do both, and then I ended up taking piano later on. So I was just definitely exploring curiosity back then, just figuring out, hey, if somebody else can do it, I can do it too.
Wow. Yeah, that is, and that's the thing is, um, how old are you? If you
I'm
don't mind me,
33.
33? Okay. Yeah, I'm 49. And so, like, I think about the iterations of like when I was in my 20s and kind of the how the process it was to whether it's mess with music or anything because I mean we had like I had a 4-track recorder and we would set up in our apartment and, hook up mics and, put drum beats on the keyboard. Because I think in the mid 90s, I don't even know if they had drum machines, but you could kind of do it on the keyboard, you know? And
Yeah.
so it was just such a different time. And that's kind of why I find it interesting is um, as the world evolves and the technology evolves, like your access points into it
Mm,
change, and also like that ability and how it influences you and kind of helps you launch. And so, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's interesting um, to kind of learn that piece. But um, did you, so when did you actually start kind of putting the pieces together, whether it was like the music, the words, and everything? And um, you said you feel the love for it, you become the lover of words. You don't know that you're seeking this, but it makes sense,
yes.
learning you're adopted. I need to find my place and where I fit in,
Mm,
because I don't necessarily, I mean, I have people, but they're not my people by blood.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, how did that when did you start recording, or how did that come in? Did you do any like open mics? Have you done any like were you doing any live poetry readings? Because I know like you have coffee shops and open mics and different stuff like that, and in New York you have access to a
Yes.
ton of that. I live in a small Texas town and it's hard to find live music, period. um so what was that looking like for you?
Interestingly enough, I started when I was 17. And it's funny because a lot of people really don't believe that I started that young because I never really put myself out there. So I was pretty much hiding
Mm-hmm.
my musical talent at the time. I just kind of was just like something that I did on the low. Nobody really knew I was doing it. I would post some stuff on like I think it was like Facebook and stuff at the
Mm-hmm.
time. But I think that was later on when I felt comfortable. I was in my 20s. I really launched my first project when it was about 20, I want to say probably 2013, I believe. I launched my first project. It was I definitely yeah, definitely. Yeah, my first EP I launched in like 2015 or so. And that was when I really cut my feet on like my teeth on actually recording songs and figuring that out because I went to a studio that was local to me, and then my sisters was telling me about it because I didn't really know anything about studio stuff. I
Right.
was a newbie in the game, and she was like, well, this is studio here. My son is taking vocal lessons and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I ended up going to that studio to take vocal lessons, and then I ended up being able to go to because the studio was pretty much in that um area where the vocal lessons were being held. So I was doing both, and I met with the engineer, and he and I have recorded my first project that I have released online at the time. So that was pretty much my first big break of like getting my music pretty much to the masses. But before then, I was in a college called Institute of Audio Research.
Okay.
When I jumped out of uh the city tech, I had went to this audio engineering school afterwards to pursue my musical endeavors, which that was a whole thing because my mom at the time was like not for it.
They
She was
never
just
are.
like, no, she was like, it's not
It's not
happening.
practical.
Yes, and that's the thing. So her and I will get into these big
I
heated
still go through that
arguments,
with a
and it was
podcast.
like, yeah, and I was just like, how am I gonna convince? She's like very hard as a rock, like anything can't come to go through her. So it's like I was like, man, I was like, how am I gonna convince her that I want to go to this school? And then it was interesting because she ended up giving up and said, you know what, let's see, what this is about. And she was like, she let me, but before I had to like really persuade her that I didn't want to just stay at just kind of like a regular 8 to 5. I And it wasn't until I got accolades that she started to like believe like okay that he's actually serious about his music career. Like he's putting himself out there. He's getting all these accolades and getting himself out there in the public eye. So after I went to the school, I finished up the school afterwards, and I actually used the studio that was there. So it was that time where actually recorded about two. I think it was like my first two official singles
Mm-hmm.
before I started to branch into putting out like a whole full EP. But before I just had put a couple songs out to test the waters to see how they would do, and then after that, people were like, "Wait a minute, this is pretty good." So then I was like, okay, I started to feel validated, and I started feeling myself a little bit. Dropped an EP afterwards when I went to the other studio to record, and then later on, I just started to delve into like more solo work, like putting out singles, putting out a whole bunch of like verses
Mm-hmm.
that were pretty much using other people's beats, but just kind of like getting my lyrics out there. I started posting some stuff online. I did open mics like pretty much after like I did my first EP work. I started performing my originals, and then I didn't get into like the whole poetry until like I think it was right after I dropped my EP. I started to do open mics. I actually was in a church, and I started doing my first spoken word stuff there,
Okay.
which was interesting because that's how I kind of got um my first, I guess, practice run, if you will, for actually being out there with my musical talents and my poetry and spoken word gifts. So that was really interesting for me at the time.
Let's go back to the recording experiences. So you talked about the vocal lessons and getting some studio time, working with the engineer, and then you end up going to an audio engineering type school and doing the studio work there. What were how like comparing the where you were and the levels, how were the sessions different? And um having gone to the school, what did you like learn that you took into the next sessions that kind of helped it improve? And did it change your view any? And how did it, how was that like your first time recording versus like after you go to school and then you start getting some more in the game? How was that? Compare those for me.
Yeah, it was actually a good experience to actually know how to actually like be more hands-on with the
Yeah.
programs because I pretty much was like really like just like solo, just the rapper. I wasn't like knowing about the
But
all
isn't
tech
there like a
stuff.
freedom too, and just telling
Yeah,
the engineer like, "Hey, you know all this. This is all I know how to do, and I'm gonna
yeah,
trust you." But the problem is, you know, then you can't trust if they're actually good or not
right.
unless you know kind of how to do it, or you might be able to look at it a different way. So yeah, I look at it kind of from that experience is like if you don't want to do the technical, then
Yeah,
there's kind of a freedom of you don't have to mess with it. But then there's people who actually want to get into that technical
yeah.
part.
No,
How,
absolutely. And you posed a great point because to be honest, I was like at one point I'm like I thought I would never be like, and I still don't really know the ins and out, but like I knew like sort of like how to get around, like how to explain like okay, this is the sonics I want, and like certain things like that. That really helped me to like figure out like okay, maybe we could use this. I didn't know exactly like some of the names of like some of the like the sound effects and stuff exactly to a T, and some of the terminology was still fuzzy, but
oh
I
yeah.
knew like just of like how to get by so I couldn't explain to the engineer, okay, I have a reference track, this is what I want, this is the sound I'm going for, I have a beat that I like, I have this delivery I'm going for. So like I had all these things that I learned that I was able to apply when I was actually doing my first record, because that really helped me, because I at first I didn't really know like what to like how to even get to from A to B to finish a whole EP, because then I was at the time I was still new to recording my first project, so I had to really do some homework, and I
Mhm.
actually had to start like delving into like what do I want the Sonics to be, what do I want the project to be called, like all the ins and outs, so that I can actually verbalize that to the engineer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to speak the same language.
Yeah,
That's important. And yeah. Um, but I know like, when it comes to the technical stuff, that's the thing is like you can go so far in the weeds. I
yeah.
mean, it's like with guitars and stuff like that and all the effects and then how they arrange them and I mean that's why they have guitar techs, but it's like yeah, it can get so technical and for me like I'm just a simpleton. I like to pick it up and play. Is it in tune? I like this sound. I don't like the technical parts as much. But what was your so how did your singles and EPs go? I mean, did you what were the platforms? Where were you getting them out? And you know, man, it's hard to believe it's 2025. So were you pressing CDs and handing them out?
Yes.
Was it like Spotify? Did you have like posters, merch, anything? How were you getting people to listen to your music?
At the time, I was doing it old school. I was pressing the CDs to get them out there. I was going to different events and just really pushing it. Even at work, I would push them. I did
Mhm.
anything I could to just, get my foot in the door, and get everyone to know like I was actually an artist, and I had a product that I wanted to sell, and I wanted to bring awareness around. And I didn't have merch at the time. I just pretty much was only having that CD, but I also promoted a lot of my music at the time on YouTube, and also on SoundCloud. I used as my main hub. I put a lot of my songs from the EP there, and also I had like some verses that I had put on records that I put on SoundCloud as well, so people could hear like, hey, I did my verses on this beat, familiar beat, so that I could still get my voice and my words heard, even if it wasn't like an original
Yeah.
beat. And a lot of the things I just kind of just like, I think at the time I was just like, just put whatever out there, and just so I can grow and learn how to do it. Cause I feel like how, consistency is mastery. Like if I'm doing something consistent, I'm gonna master this thing one day. And when I put things out, it may or may not resonate, but I know like at the end of the day, I'm gonna continue to get better because I'm continue to refining my craft. I continue to refine on my craft at the time too. So definitely CDs, definitely social media as well.
How was the reception? Better than you thought? Worse than you thought? Or about like you thought and as
It
hard
was
as you thought?
Yeah, it was mixy. So it was mixed because of course like people like who were close was like, oh, I loved it, but then there was people that I had got um a couple of people in particular, because I actually did the Reverb Nation, and at the time Reverb Nation had this service that an artist can pay for to get someone to actually listen to the song and review it. So I had a whole
Mhm.
bunch of reviews based on that service, and a lot of it was really bad. Uh
Mm.
Honestly, and I was like, "Oh wow." But then I guess at the time, cuz I was still new, so like I was a bit tender, cuz I'm like
Well,
a
we all
newbie.
well, it's your personal feelings. I mean,
Yeah.
you're putting your soul out there. Because I was going to
Yeah.
ask you
Yeah.
how did that feel and how did you deal with it? Because I'm certain it probably prepares you for other things, but that I mean, did you take it as okay? Um, what can I do better? I'm listening, and how can I do better? Or, I mean, did you think about throwing in the towel? And, obviously you didn't, but give me a little bit of that. What was going through your mind, and how did you take it, and what did you do with it to continue on, to be able to continue on?
That's a great question. I was distraught because I didn't know at the time, like, I put my stuff out there because I was thinking, like, at the time, I had a bit of an ego
Hmm.
on me, so I just thought, like, oh, my shit was good. I didn't think that, because my friend, I didn't think, like, my music was bad, and I was
Right.
confident. So, when I got the reviews, I was like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I did take some stuff into consideration because I'm just like, I don't know, maybe I'm too close to material, so I'm biased. So maybe getting an outside perspective would help me gain clarity of like what to do better. So like I was actually like, okay, this is constructive, but then there was also things that were like that two people in my school were saying about some of my songs that were very destructive and then also constructive at the same time. So it was like I was getting all these different mixed reviews and feedbacks, and I was just like I didn't know how to feel about my self-esteem. Like I put so much of my worth in my music,
Yeah.
and I didn't really know how to distance myself away from that
Like your
sentiment. So
identity.
yeah, and I was crushed. Like there was so many times that I wanted to give up, like more than once in my musical career, to the point where I honestly, because of the some of the stuff that I was being told and things like that, like I felt like I didn't want to even be here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
I
it
know.
was just that bad, and I was just like, man, I'm like, it's not even at that point. I was like, I don't even know if it was worth it, just to be honest. And I kept on getting people pouring into me saying, you need to put out music, you need to continue, you have a message, this is helping me get through. And I was like, that was really what kept me going, because honestly I wanted to give up a long time ago. And I kept on remembering, like, one guy I had met, out of nowhere in church was like, I literally just met him like literally like 2 hours ago, and he and I exchanged contacts, and I went to just check my Facebook, not even thinking anything of it, and he goes and sends me a message saying that my YouTube saved his life, and I'm like, what? So like things like that, I'm just like, I never knew what impact I had on other people, because I didn't really, you know, at that time believe that my music was helping, so because I didn't really hear it,
No,
people
you
telling
hear,
me verbally.
yeah, you hear
Yeah,
mostly the other stuff, but I think it's natural, like if you're kind of in this space of what's kind of considered artistic, that, um, yeah, we're always looking or taking, we're kind of outside of it, you
yeah,
know?
mm-hmm,
Um, it's, I mean, we know why we do it,
yeah,
but it- yeah, you have to learn to go, the qualities of myself are this. This is my identity. This is just a means by which I express that identity or how
yes,
I get it across. And that way everything is not kind of tied into that, or your value and your worth,
yeah,
because like you said, it's like you didn't even want to be here. And
yeah,
and I know it's part of that is that, we feel like, hey, if we're not offering value to the world,
mm-hmm,
then what am I doing here?
yeah, yeah,
And that's kind of that whole purpose thing. And so yeah, that was good. And um you said that, once you were able to kind of latch on to that hey, if one person hears it that
mm-hmm,
needs to hear it, then I can be willing to kind of stand strong take the constructive criticism and even hate sometimes because people are gonna hate. They just do. I always say like, what is it like? People want to see you succeed, just not more than them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, um, yeah. How did that change for you, and how did you start to see things different, and how did that impact whether it's your process of, your process and intention of writing? Because when you have that doubt from constructive criticism, that can impact how you let it out, how you let the flow out,
Mm-hmm.
what comes out
Yeah.
of you. Because if you're hurt and you think like, well, I'm going to trigger somebody or whatever, you might hold back and you may not tell the whole what you're feeling or the truth of your soul when really it's the truth of your soul that needs to come out.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that, and did that change for you?
Honestly, it put a fire under me because of the fact that it really helped me see value into what I was doing that I before I didn't really know. And it really solidified who I was as an artist, or an artist who wants to empower and for, other people to be seen, heard, and understood, and that they're not the only ones who are struggling. I wanted to normalize that. And I felt like it really empowered a lot of my music to be um more intentional. I was pretty much more intentional about like some of the records that I started putting out afterwards, because I'm like, wow, like I didn't know there was so much power in my music and what I was saying. So I'm like, I have to like really take stock into like, some of the words and things, because at the time I did a whole rebrand because my mentor at the time, she felt like I needed to really delve into like my real authentic self, because at the time I was pretty much playing this whole
Kind
gangster
of
role when I
emulating
wasn't really, yeah.
emulating what caught your ear
Right.
initially.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
And then it didn't really fit me, and it wasn't true to who I was, and then people called me out on it. I'm like, well, you know what, they're right. And I started to um dial it back a bit, and I started to really express, okay, this is who I am as a person. And that really started getting a lot more responses versus the other stuff that was just superficial and just nonsense
And
and
we're
braggadocious.
yeah, yeah. Kind of the flaunt of yeah. I I grew up in the 90s, so straight up like with the old NWA, Eazy-E,
Yep.
Ice Cube, Cypress Hill, all the original stuff. And so even the Two Live Crew and all that, I was well aware of that music. But
Yes.
and it's funny because I don't know if it was in a podcast or something. I heard that it was kind of a conversation around that. And it's like, man, if you could imagine what that was influencing people to want to be or do.
Mm-hmm.
And was there any really, nobody was discerning enough
Yep.
of Hollywood being Hollywood and what Hollywood does to polish and make stuff up,
Yep.
versus where you try to integrate the reality of it, what's real and what's not. But I mean, all this stuff, you know, I was of the early 90s. That's Tupac, and that's kind of the Vanilla Ice and the Suge Knight and kind of what we've learned about it all then, and how, yes, there was some gangster stuff in it that was
Yep.
real. And then some of it was, what the music companies do to advertise it or market it. And of course, in the early 90s, we didn't have phones and all that. It was the
Yep.
Boys in the Hood movie. That was probably the marketing type of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of look and you go, well, you know, what, what, what did what did the message perpetuate? It made more
Right.
rappers, more drug dealers. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you got 50 Cent. I mean, he was probably doing that anyway before, he got into rapping or whatever. But, you kind of see it started in the 90s. And as you've gone through and you got Biggie and all this, and you still got people doing just modified forms. Even if you look at
Yeah.
Diddy, it's like still that kind of gangster culture stuff, but just on a
Yeah.
different level. That's more like a high-end mafioso
Hmm.
money and power level, you know?
Yes.
But you in thinking about what is the message and what does it perpetuate
Yeah.
for the future and the youth? I mean, people, when you were talking about putting some of your own lyrics over familiar beats, that's like a great idea because you're getting somebody that something that somebody recognizes, a beat that they can kind of groove to, and then maybe they hear your lyrics and that's a little bit different and that's kind of what gets them in,
Mm.
you know? But if you think about it, it's like, yeah, in terms of message, what's the offering? What's the
Yeah.
value? What are we making? If we could argue that the beginning of gangster rap is what led to Diddy being where he is now, then I don't know. Was there a good message or was it just for the music or was it their
Hmm.
life, Are they talking about what they live? How much of it's real and how much of it is for the show, for the
Yeah.
game or to get people's attention. But yeah, I don't know. That made me think a lot about rap
Yeah.
and the history of it. But it is interesting to kind of look back and see the influence all the way through. But where during what time was this? Because you had a big change. It says during COVID, and so was this pre-COVID, after COVID, kind of? What was this time and how was COVID significant to you? I mean, it was significant to everyone. I think everybody probably has a COVID story.
Yeah.
But what they did with it, did it do something? I think you and I are sitting in front of each other because it did something positive for us, even
Yeah.
though there was probably some real pain involved.
Yeah.
So what was that change for you and what was that? And how did it impact what you're doing? How did it change your writing, recording, message, any of that? Because you said, the church was one instance, and the YouTuber, somebody saying, hey, and kind of being called out. You need to be you, authentically you. I want to hear your message. You aren't the
Yeah.
gangster. So when was that time period in relation to COVID?
Yeah, a lot of this other stuff was definitely like, um, definitely probably way years before COVID. I think
Okay.
maybe even,
So you
but
kind of went
yeah.
original and started kind of being yourself before COVID?
Well, I was,
Or was kind of
being
COVID the
original
change
to
where it
the,
was like, hey, I need to be true to me? Is
well, it
that
was,
where?
yeah, it definitely was during, yeah, definitely, pre-COVID, because I was taking a music class, about, I would say, like, probably like now 5 years ago or so, that really helped me realize that, like, and my mentor at the time, she helped me realize that, like, my story is important. And then
Mhm.
the pandemic was very symbolic of, like, my renewal of, like, this is who I am. Like, the whole brand of, like, Rich Vision is to, like, really enrich the lives of others with my music. And it also, during the time, her and I had a falling out that involved mental abuse, and I personally had to, like, keep my distance from her because it was really to the point where I contemplated suicide after her and I had a
Is
bad
this your
outing.
music? You said your music teacher? Or
Yeah, it's the one that was helping me with the whole rebrand, and things like
and
that. She
and what
poured
was the
into me.
class you were taking? Just
It
out of
was a
curiosity.
songwriting class.
Okay, it was a songwriting class.
Yeah, it was a songwriting class that she taught
Do
online
you?
virtually.
I know if it's you mentioned mental abuse. Um,
Yeah.
what i- if you're comfortable talking about
Yeah.
it? Because
Yeah, sure.
what were the signs? This is the part that because I don't know. I think some of us, if we're kind of people pleasers, and I think sometimes, I mean, what we do. for a living to please others, validation,
Yeah,
partially. We don't recognize when we need to shut the window when a damn intruder's trying to come in
yeah,
to our mind. And I just want to know what it looked like for you because people listening to this, they need to be able to pick up on it. And that way they don't have it because feeling suicidal ideations is not fun.
yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
What were some of the signs and how did it go on? And how did you recognize it and say, I can't, other
Well,
than the
one of
suicide?
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my friends that was in the same class, she really so the whole preface of this is like my friend was the one who helped me realize what mental abuse was because I didn't even know
Oh.
that was a thing. So like she she told me basically like the teacher was mentally abusing her and she showed me a video about narcissism on YouTube. Like she and I have watched it over Zoom, and she was like, "Oh, you need to watch this with me. Like this is what she's doing to you," not knowing this. And I was like, "Okay." And then I was just like, "It was called Your Reality," and we watched this movie, and I'm just like, "Wow!" And I'm just like, she was literally like, she would literally like put me down. Like she would say like all these condescending things of like, oh, like, she'd be like, oh, well, she would kind of like talk highly of me and then under the same breath, she's like, well, I'm not your mother, I'm not your God. So like those
Mm.
little things that I thought was like, what did that come from? And she, her and I had a conversation one morning when I called her because I was really depressed and she gave me this kind of like, well, why did you call me at so early in the morning? It's not professional. You should have sent me an email. That was
Mm.
really the sign that, wait a minute. And then prior, she was like, she don't care what time I call her or reach out to her. She wants to make sure that I'm okay. So it's like one minute she's saying one thing to
Mm-hmm.
me, and the next thing you know, she's doubling back. So all these different signs from the movie, I was like, wow. And then one thing that really got me to thinking like there's something I feel like problematic between the dynamic between her and I was the fact that she knew that at the time I wasn't really in the best um mental state because I was there crying on the phone. Obviously I called her early because I had an issue and she was pretty much this um accounting this all of the stuff that I was saying about what I was going through. She was like, well, let's talk about this, album rollout that you have that you could be doing with this producer. And I'm like, how's that relevant to my depression? So
Yeah.
it just kind of felt like some things, it's like, are you worried about more money that you can get out of me, or are you worried about my mental health? So certain things were just like, hmm. So I had to really think about like what that relationship was doing to me because I felt like at the time I was getting a little bit toxic, and I had to really tell her, because my friend was telling me like you need to tell her I don't tolerate mental abuse, and that you're gonna just pretty much go about your business and get out of the class. Because I personally was like, I felt like to the point like so comfortable with, because I was in her class for so long, like I was feeling like I was attached,
Yeah.
which was a
And it
problem.
makes
And
sense given your
yeah,
background.
and she was basically very offended because she was like, well, you're pointing the blame at me, I did so much to help you. And it was like at the time like I was not in my right state of mind if I didn't say thank you to her. At the time I did I wasn't being insincere. Like I really, in my head, I thought I apologized, but maybe I didn't like verbalize it enough or something, that she didn't really recognize that. But she always told me like, well, this is the stuff that I'm not doing, I guess, to make it seem like I was like
Yeah.
not praising her for the things she did important to me as far as mentally. But she really did help me get to a certain point, and she did offer space. But at that last ladder, of my life and didn't end up so good. So I had to really get to the point where at that time I transitioned. Like that really started me into this whole mental health journey, this whole issue because like
What
the
was
EP
causing the
started.
depression
Yeah,
kind of in the first place? Because you said
yeah.
you called her because your mental health state was low. What was the cause of it in the first place? Or
Well, I
have you
had
pinpointed it?
yeah, I had another um girl in the same class. She was being I don't know if it was manipulative or what, but she was trying to get footage from me that was supposed to be private between
Yeah.
my me and a coach that I was working with on some materials, and it was to the point where I felt like at the time, like I thought I was mentally abused because like she couldn't stop harassing me about it, and I was just like so distraught about it to the point where it was causing me a lot of distress and
Yeah.
it caused me a lot of sadness because I'm just like, why do you want material that's supposed to be private between my coach and I? And I don't know if she just wanted it to for information or
Yeah,
something,
but you
or if
felt like it
she
was ulterior, something not off
yeah, I
about it.
didn't know
Yeah.
what it was for. Like
Well,
I
yeah,
really
it's like
didn't know.
if you're not you're not part of the coaching team or something, what would you need it for? I mean,
Yes,
because you
and I
should have
was
your
thinking
own private material between you and your coach, and I don't ask for your material. Why would you ask for mine?
yeah, and that's how I felt at the time. And I felt like I was very valid to feel apprehensive about, sharing
Yeah.
any materials between, and those as far as the coaching sessions. And I guess she was just feeling like she needed it because her and I were gonna do like this record together. She felt like she needed to get like a one up thing to kind of like help with, I don't know,
Like a
where her mindset
research
was
type
at.
of a thing. It was
Yeah,
kind
to
of
kind
like,
of
yeah,
see,
let me get your
yeah,
vibe. Almost like you know what it reminds me of is like, yeah, like when you see an actor, maybe they spend a time with the character so they
yeah,
can know how they act or something. It's like
yes.
trying to get in the head of the character. And if you're going to make an album together, it's like, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that would seem weird, but, um, yeah, so you said in
Yeah.
2020, so this kind of gave you that recognition that you needed to make some changes, and this is kind of where you started focusing on mental health.
Yes. Yeah, it changed
How,
my whole life.
where, how did that, so you had to verbalize to your teacher, hey, this is
Yes.
not healthy for me. How did that feel to set that boundary and kind of stand up for yourself? And had you ever done it before, or was this the first time? And what did it do for you?
This is my first time to this capacity to someone
Hmm.
I revered because prior to this I had a 4 year professional dynamic with her,
Oh,
professional
okay.
relationship with her. So like I had like years.
Yeah.
So like it was maybe I think at the time apparent that I would be a little bit attached to the dynamic her and I had, and then I was honestly nervous and I was still unsettled because at the time I didn't want to do it. My friend was telling me I need to do it. Like it was a necessity because she didn't want to see me going down like this,
Yeah.
and she was pretty much advocating on my behalf with the videos, with all the stuff she was sending me behind the scenes. So like when I spoke to her directly over Zoom, I was scared as heck. I was like, man, like I don't know how to tell her this. And the thing about it is like she my friend was like, you need to write a letter and you just need to say it. So I did the letter, even though I was nervous about doing it, I still did it and I presented it to her on the call. And when I read it to her, I was kind of like um I was like kind of like hesitant because I was like I didn't know how I was gonna land.
Yeah.
So when I said it, I was just like it's like as if I didn't want to say it.
Yeah.
So when I finished saying my speech, she was just like, "Wow, like I can't believe you're throwing this at me. Like how much I did for you, the condescending
Mm.
tone, all of that, the gaslighting, all that bits,
All
and
about
then
me again.
yeah, so it was like interesting because I was like, and then after that, I kind of felt very liberated because I really knew that I had finally put my like a stake in the ground, so to speak, and said, hey, like I need to finally advocate for myself just as much as my friend is advocating for me.
Hmm.
So I said it straight up. I'm like, wait, I will not tolerate mental abuse from you, and that's it. And although she gave me a lot of pushback, I still respect the fact that I still stood up for myself, and I'm grateful that I did because it really helped me realize that okay, I am worthy of being stood up for, and that really helped inspire the book I wrote called From Victor to Victor, Transforming Trauma into Triumph. That whole started this whole journey of like, I need to speak about this because it's important to know, for other people to know that they don't have to live with a victim's mentality. They can transform into a victor once they put the steps in motion and say, hey, I will not tolerate this from anyone, and start to develop more time for healing and self development and doing more inner work to know that they are worthy of being victorious of whatever circumstances and trauma that they have encountered.
You know what I just thought of? I'm my own worst critic is I have to go, I'm not going to take this from myself. Like that
Mm,
self boundary, that negative
yeah,
self talk that you get when you're
mm,
kind of a people pleasing
yeah,
perfectionist, you know? Um,
absolutely.
for me, sometimes it's not about others, it's about that inner part of me that's like,
Mm,
that, you know, your shadow self or whatever they call it. It's, not a good friend to me. And
yeah,
yeah, that's the person I need to say, no, you're worthy and you kick rocks. Get away from me.
yeah.
But so you did this, you read the letter, you took the stand. What switches here in terms of you got the book? So did did you automatically start off writing? Did you go back to old like journals and you're like, did the idea come kind of like, hey, I'm worthy? How did it, I know it manifested in a book, but
Yeah.
how else did it manifest? Like, did you continue on with music? When did the book idea come along and how was that process?
Yes, no, that's actually a great question because I was honestly surprised that the book took about 3 years for me to, from inception to completion, after the fact that I had this dynamic with my mentor at the time, for me to process what happened and to heal, because I was still healing through that journey, still figuring out things, still processing what happened through therapy and getting the help that I deserved at the time because I was in critical a mental, even though I wasn't diagnosed, but mentally I was distraught and I had my moments of, of depression. And when I was writing it, I was still thinking about like all the things I've learned within that dynamic, and also going back to some of the stuff from the past of like some of the cyberbullying stuff that I incurred, and some of the other self-worth issues that I had in the past that was creeping up for me at the time. And I would watch all these videos about victimhood at the same time I was writing the book. So all these different things and perspectives started really giving me father for the book because it really helped me develop a more expansive book, not just about the mental bits, but all encompassing my whole journey, from
Hmm.
pretty much when I first kind of like started to even to now.
You mentioned therapy. When now did you start that after this? Had you already been in therapy? Um,
Yeah, actually, I started therapy after the situation that I had with the because it really brought so much things to
how was yeah, because how was
fruition.
that? A lot of people like so I started therapy last week and yeah, so I'm curious to get your take on, like what it's like to you recognize that, hey, maybe I need this. How was your experience finding it? Because I think, as men, sometimes it's hard for us to just do it and admit to
Yeah, it is.
ourselves
Yeah,
and
it is.
take the step, because I've been thinking about this for months, but I just haven't. It's like you're waiting for the perfect time, and
Yeah,
finally something happens, and you're like, I probably could have avoided that had I been in therapy much longer ago.
yeah,
So yeah, how was getting into therapy and making that decision? What were the feelings around it? Were you afraid of therapy? Were you afraid of what other people might thought? I mean, it's way more mainstream than it
yeah.
is a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I was unsettled about getting a therapy because at the time I wanted people to see me as someone who was all put together. Like I wanted to paint the false narrative that I was a strong, I was a
Hmm.
strong human being. I was a strong man, and there was a few instances where, um, especially one, um, that was during the pandemic that I actually attempted in front of my sister, and at the time, I think it was that was when I was like, wait a minute, I need to really go back to therapy because that really started a lot of things mentally for me. Like I can't believe like my purpose. Like I just almost threw it out the window because I was just in my head about not and going back to all the stuff from the old trauma that I hasn't healed from. You're not worthy. You're not gonna amount to nothing in the music industry. Not even getting past all that trauma and healing from that. That stuff started resurfacing in the pandemic. So like I was like, I need to get back into therapy because I had so many. I had to jump around different therapists because the first therapist I had issues with the first time because there was she was pretty much late most of the time, and I was like, I can't just do that. I can't deal with someone who's not,
Yeah.
tactful. I just personally had to like, and then she made it seem like I was a high standard person. I'm like, no, you need to be on time. So that was kind of
Isn't
like
that
the
like a
icing on
requirement for most things from fucking grade school to
right,
everything?
right, and it's
Your
like
profession?
I'm like, okay, I just found it hilarious, and then I'm like, okay, I had the second one, and then things, and she was actually good, and then she had so much on her plate and things transitioning through life and I guess schooling and things, having to take exams. So then I had to kind of like switch to so I was this is like my third therapist now. So I was on along the journey. I was like learning a lot about myself, and at the
Hmm.
time, navigating as hard as it was, feeling like I had to start over.
Yeah.
So that was a struggle, having to start over with somebody different. And then at the same time, I was grateful that my second therapist gave notes to the third one. So like she kind of was like picking off where she left off kind of. So it was helpful to kind of like gauge like where I was at mentally. And I'm just grateful because it really helped me realize that I do have purpose and value in this world, and it really helped me realize that I'm not alone in my struggles and the things that I go through, are universal, and that I deserve to get the help. And it really helped normalize a lot of the things that I was going through, like some of the past stuff. And I'm really getting to a point where I am more solidified in my I guess masculinity. Regardless if I cry or not, everything is healing. So like for me, I'm just learning that it's okay not to be okay, but it's also okay
Yeah.
to get someone to pour into me when I couldn't pour into myself.
Um, hold on a second. Um, Hold on. I gotta send a text once. Mm. Okay. Um, was the so you mentioned going through therapy, and this kind of begins your healing process. Um, During your therapy, are you doing journaling? Are you doing music? Are you converting any of your thoughts? Are they coming out that way, or is it more kind of towards the book?
Well, when I was actually doing the therapy, I was actually just converting like some of the stuff that I was going through in my head, just just basically on, as far as like the stuff that I was like as far as like the trauma, but then also I was journaling on some of the stuff with my teacher because that sparked a lot of resentment and things,
Ah,
intrusive thoughts. So a lot of my anger and unresolved resentment came from that situation. So when I didn't really know how bad my anger was until I started to journal on a lot of the stuff that afterwards
mm-hmm.
came forth from that mental abusive situation to the point where like, I have like books of stuff that's like I hate you and all
Oh.
this stuff. And it was so, I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, all these intrusive thoughts. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was so mad.
Yeah, well, it's
And
kind of
then
like
I'm
you're
like, wow,
disappointed. You're like, did that really come out of me? And you're like, oh,
yeah.
can't believe myself.
But then it's like I had to honor the fact that, wait a minute,
Oh,
I was in a
hmm.
situation that was life or death, literally, and I'm like, I can't really, hide the fact that yeah, I had a good valid reason that I was angry,
Yeah,
but at the same time, like I'm so grateful that I had the wherewithal that I didn't act on those intrusive thoughts, and I think that's one big thing that was I commend myself for keeping my cool in a sense to not actually do something that was physical.
yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, it's the frustration, the anger. That's the hard part. And when you recognize that you're angry, it's like, oh, man. How did you said an interesting thing that you honored it. What does honoring it look like? Making friends with it and accepting it, and then how do you wrap your mind around it to kind of let it go, the anger part?
Yeah, I mean, I honored it through my, through the writing, through my freestyles. I used to freestyle a lot when this situation
Mm-hmm.
occurred. So I would just put on any beat just to like drown out my sadness and my anger, and I would just freestyle and then I put on a beat and then that her mental abuse came out like literally like I think it was the day after the situation occurred. I put on a beat and then literally after a workout I was like I need to record this memo quick, and I just remember getting my phone out and rapping, and it was just like I don't know, it just felt like the floodgates were just like open, and I was able to like just let go. I mean, and pour into like yeah, honor the anger at the same time, but also I learned to let go because like I learned that, the battles is not mine. I felt like it
Oh.
was the universe's battle, and I was just kind of like
Ah.
going through the
Huh.
situation as like I don't know, maybe as a testament of like something like I need to be um a situation where I felt like I had to be tested. For some reason, I didn't know I needed the test at the
Mm-hmm.
time, but and I learned. I guess I learned that maybe it was something that could, in a sense, be something hopeful for me in the future. Like, hey, if I go through the situation again, I have the tools in my toolbox to be able to combat, a situation. Hopefully not, but now I have kind of like the guidelines, the videos, and things like that. But then I also realized that I had to let go for me. That's the reason why I put out music like I Forgive You for Me, because I'm like, as much as I didn't want to forgive her, at the same time, the forgiveness wasn't for her.
Right.
It was just for my own well being, and I didn't know that until after the fact that I started to meditate and do this inner work and read the books and read all these self-care books and all these videos that my friend was showing me and I was as I was writing my book and it was like all these things, even in the book I talk about forgiveness and how I was able to heal and pretty much like let go of the reins because I just felt like at the end of the day, like if I continue to hold on to this anger, I'm just gonna be miserable. And she's living her life,
Hmm.
maybe her best life, I don't know, but I'm here,
They
crying in
always
my
are.
bed, distraught,
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
You're like, why do I have to be the one that cares so much? You know? Sometimes I wish my give up was broken, you know? Because some people have a pretty damn easy time like stepping all over you, being inconsiderate, and just whatever benefits them, you know?
yeah,
It's it's hard when you spend a lot of your life on one side of the equation.
mm,
And then, of course, the moment you begin to set boundaries, all of a sudden, now you're a problem.
yes, that
When
was
you're no
interesting.
longer agreeable, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? Who are
Yep,
you? Well, just because you've walked over me the past X number of years and I'm tired of it, you know, now that it no longer benefits you, um, I'm a, I'm a issue.
yes,
Um, So, what was the process like of writing the book? Is it self-published? Did you
yeah,
work with someone? Or was it, because I know somebody's told me once, like, I've considered writing a book, but kind of how was that process? Because deciding to write it, getting started, where did you look? But you journal, as do I.
yeah,
And I think people who journal daily definitely it's easier to write.
yes. That's so true. This book was something that was self-published and I'm grateful that it was self-published and I'm actually um also grateful that I had, you know, one of my mentor which really inspired the book and I'm grateful for the situation and also grateful for Steve Ryan who was the other author that I read his book poetry book and it really inspired me to like know that wait my words have power like I some of his stories that he wrote about in regards to his mental health really helped me realize that as much as someone looks all put together, they're not always that put together. And I was here judging a book by its cover, but then I also realized that I can't really do that. So I honestly started to write basically based on just all the journal entries that I had, and I also wrote based on like how I was feeling at the time, and I did a lot of the stuff pretty much on my own. I think there was only just like one poem that I had someone re polished, but other than that, a lot of it was just kind of like
And how did you
how I
come up
felt at
with
the
the
time.
name
Yeah,
and the chapters and organization of it? Like, how did
yeah.
you decide what would go into it?
Yeah, I decided the name of the book because at the time I was watching a lot of Eric Thomas videos and he's a motivational speaker and his videos were talking about victims mentality and it's funny how these videos always came up when I was in this mental abusive
Oh,
ordeal. So I felt like that was the universe saying, wait a minute, there's something here. So I started to take mental notes about that in my head and then I was like, okay, it had to be something with victims mentality. So I'm like, okay. And then I was at a point where I'm like, I don't want to live like this no more. Like I just wanted something that embodied freedom from it. So I felt
mhm.
like going from victim to victor, was something that was like profound for me because it was kind of like saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to be trapped in this prison, in my mind forever. This, I need to escape. I have the keys now.
Right.
So for
Oh,
me,
that's good.
yeah, thank you. And I felt that very much so when I got out of the situation, and then I had put this as a subtitle, transforming my trauma. and to triumph. So to solidify the fact that wait, I'm allowing my trauma to bring me, back into purpose. So I just kind of like the whole title to feel more empowering to someone who's reading it. Like I didn't want it to be like, oh, this is woe me and this is what happened. Like yeah, I went through some dark stuff, and I always speak from my experience. I never say things that either I don't experience, or if I do, I always I'll put a little bit of me in it. And this book is a lot about my whole journey, and it's raw. It's like unfiltered. I talk about
Yeah.
self-harm in there. So a lot of it is basically about my go
I
through.
think what a lot of people don't realize, and this was kind of something that stuck out to me, is a person who truly feels that way, somebody who doesn't feel that way, they don't understand. They look at the outside and they
Mm-hmm.
go, "Why would you feel that way? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong? Like nothing's
Yeah.
wrong." But they don't realize like how antagonizing that is. It's like it makes like how would you know? Like unless you've suffered with it, you do not know the ability of your mind to convince you that you're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are like, well, I mean, all your needs are met. I don't see what you're complaining about or what you have to be sad about. It feels a little, I don't know, condescending. It
Yeah.
makes it worse. Um, did you experience any of that and how did you get past that?
Yeah, I had experience where I was told that, the world doesn't revolve around me, and that shook me to the core because I'm just like I'm here going through my stuff and not feeling like I'm worthy to be here, and someone's gonna just tell me that, mind you, it was a family member.
Yeah, it
So
always
it's
is.
just so like, for me, I'm just like it sucks because I'm just like I just wish people would get it. Like I wish people would stop thinking that, depression is like a button that you can just turn on and off and
Mm-mm.
everything is just, fixed. It doesn't
Yeah,
work that way. And although I wasn't diagnosed, I still had the symptoms of like, wait a minute, hold on, like, I'm going through something, like, not wanting to eat, not wanting to sleep, not wanting to sometimes I didn't want to get out of bed,
yeah,
like all those signs, and self-harm, like I had all the signs, and it was just it sucks because, at the time, because it's like, you want people to like really be more compassionate, but then it's like you said, it's like they don't know, so it's like you kind of have to let's like detached from someone who doesn't really understand to really realizing that I can find someone who is more capable of understanding, and able to just empathize,
yeah,
and like with therapy and stuff, like they went through some stuff, so they can help me realize, wait a minute, like I'm not alone, and it helps to have that mirror for me, because it helps me realize that, wait a minute, like I'm not just this crazy person going through depression, like it's a real thing, and I'm grateful that therapy has helped me to get to a point where um I don't have to suppress like my feelings now. Like I can actually verbalize that this hurt me, this I don't like, this is something that triggered me. Where
hmm
did it come from? Like all these different things. And now I'm more self-aware, and I also know like I cannot continue to live my life pointing the finger. I have to still do the work, and I have
oh
to still
yeah.
put in the time.
One of my
You
favorites
know.
is, when I talked about um our families, and I've come to understand that the generations of my family and what they've passed on to me,
Mm,
and what is it? Somebody says like, you know what? It's not my fault,
yeah.
but it is my responsibility to change it.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
you know, I the shit stops here. My 11-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever this is, no, it stops here. And that's the hard part. and finding people who understand that and are willing to support it. But yeah. So you get the book. How do you? I'm sure like music, very similar. You go to
Yeah.
the social media world and everything to promote it. How was the book received, and what else are you doing in addition to the book? I mean, what else do you have going on? Like, are you doing music? Do you have a like any groups, Facebook groups, or what else is going on?
Yes, actually, I'm actually working as far as the book is so far it's been received pretty well. I've sold I think I probably sold over like 100 copies by now of
Oh
the
wow.
book since today, which I'm grateful for. But I've had good luck actually getting it out there in the public eye via spoken word events
Oh
and
yeah.
things like that to the my music community. So I've been, sometimes I have like a solo gig and I'll sell a couple books there. So I've been really just doing more like physical books.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then people will order it on the website and I'll mail it out to them. So I have other mediums that people can still support if they don't see me, in person or if they live far. And I also now I've been working on finding um spaces where I can actually have it on the store. So I have two stores that were interested in my book. So there was a consignment offers that I had signed so that I can at least have more visibility for my book because
Mm-hmm.
it's as a new author it's always
Oh yeah.
tough to just start out and get more eyeballs
Shoot,
on my
in this
book.
in this day and age in
Yeah,
this world, it's hard to get attention in
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
in the world. Period. I mean, that's why people
yeah,
do crazy stuff and there's clickbait.
yeah,
How has your music
yeah,
changed
yeah,
as a result of kind of the therapy, the book? How has that changed and what is that looking like now? Because you mentioned that, sometimes you'll sell some books at live events. Are you
yeah,
doing music? Are you doing poetry? Are you out there live? Are you working in the studio more or helping others?
yeah.
How's the music side going?
The music side is still pretty I'm pretty consistent. I've been doing at least two songs per month. I stopped pretty much. I think the last month I recorded two singles, and this month I'm not recording any singles, but I'm also still working on songs to get ready for my upcoming releases. So I have like still music in the can ready to release, but I've been more doing more I have a couple live gigs that I do every now and then. I'm working
Hmm.
on getting back on the radar with that. Still looking at more poetry stuff so that I can at least get my book more awareness on my book to know for people to know like hey I'm actually a poet too. So I mean that's the thing about it. It's like
You do
it's so much
music, you got
sides
a
of me.
book, you got poetry. It's like
Yeah,
you're just like
it's a
more
lot
of
to
like a wordsmith. If it
yeah
has to do with words, you're there.
yeah. So it's just yeah I'm always and actually one of my friends had a event which was amazing, which was last month. I was able to promote my book. And she had me as one of the featured authors, and I was able to like it was like a panel event at this lounge, which is cool. So I was able to actually speak about my book, which I don't necessarily get to do
Yeah.
at live gigs because it's like very like okay, you got your 5 minute set, and then you kind of plug yourself, and and that's it. You go. So I do take advantage when I have longer time to speak about either my book or just so people could know like what it is about, what went into it, what inspired it, like why people should care. I have resources in the book too, hotline numbers and different mental health organizations that if people need help, they can always call, tap in, email. Like I just want the book to be accessible to everyone to know that, that they can get the help. And that's pretty much my mission is to help empower other people to finally take the keys back.
What's been the most so as a result of taking that stand and all this and kind of coming to realize and understand this about yourself, What has been one of the most impactful things for you on a personal level
Mm.
that you never would have imagined happening, let's say 10 years ago when you were recording that first or releasing your first stuff and thinking music was going to take you one way? But now you're here having gone through a lot of different things. What's something that's happened that you never would have thought in a million years, but has been good as a result of this?
Oh, there's so much good things. I mean, my first thing is to think about, oh, the accolade, but I think for me, it's just like a sense of like belonging. I think it's my biggest thing
Mm-hmm.
because like music has really given me a voice where I felt like at times I didn't really feel seen. So like it really gave me, I guess, agency in my life to say like, hey, like I have something to contribute to society. I have like something that I want to leave behind
Yeah.
and really want to help, be, society become a better place because I feel like, my music is very profound and powerful and some of the lessons and things that I've learned, I want to be able to like pay it forward so that someone else is listening to the music that they glean some kind of wisdom of something that they may take as something to help them when they're going through a dark moment that they could feel liberated to say, wait a minute, I have something that I can navigate, this through because I heard someone else navigate that same space. So why can't I navigate it as well? So that was pretty much for me. It's this sense of belonging and also, sense of, I guess, community because I met so much beautiful people in the community, like unbelievable, like pouring into me. Like there was sometimes people come out after a show and say, this song really touched me, and I'm so grateful. Like you're speaking about mental health, like all these things. Like I never would imagine like all these people like saying all these positive things in my music because all the time when I was thinking like all these other negative things took more precedence in my life, I didn't really know that years later on, like there was gonna be a lot more people who felt more strongly, and more and had a positive reaction, to my music. So that's always a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What's what's one thing you do like if you feel the darkness start to creep back in? What's the first thing you
Mm.
do if you recognize a dark pattern coming on or dark thoughts or you feel things are kind of you don't want to go there?
Yeah, I like to journal. Journals help me. It's my escape. Honestly, I sometimes I go I no sometimes I go to the gym.
Oh yeah, me too. I go
That's
for a
really
walk.
important
I
for
put on a
me.
podcast and go for a walk, and I feel like that kind of offers me perspective. Like for me, listening is it's funny because you're not supposed to watch TV in bed or whatever, but my wife and I will decide to watch something, and she'll choose something, and she'll be like, "I'll roll over," and she's like, "You're already asleep." I go, "I'm listening," but you got to understand, like, I'm a podcaster. That's what I do. I
Mm,
listen when I Uber. I listen when I walk. I listen. Like I'm constantly either taking in information, thinking about how it's referenced to me, and then somehow using it to my own thoughts or what I think about it. I call it like kind of like a mental reconciliation,
I love
you
that.
know? But it is crucial for me. I feel like it's almost like sometimes I'm not even listening to it. It's just I need the background.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
to mute everything else. Or sometimes
Yes.
things are too silent for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want that silence. I need just a little
Yes.
background.
Uh-huh. Yes. I'm the same way. Because sometimes I get too in my head if it's like, wait a minute, it's so quiet. I need
Yeah.
something, even if it's like some kind of like instrumental stuff, still so I don't, because I would end up overthinking
Yeah.
and all this past stuff will come up even without me wanting it to. So like
Yeah.
what you said was so important. It's like I also something that I do often is I watch like the minute I get up, I'm like I put on a motivational video,
Hmm.
I write my affirmations, I reaffirm those affirmations, and I, for the first hour of my day, I put myself in like a peak state of like I need to feed myself positivity, and I get to, and I'm blessed
Mm,
to, because that helps me reframe my whole, mindset. Because sometimes stuff from not only the past, but maybe the day before may creep in,
yeah.
the next day morning, and I might be dwelling on that. So without me noticing it, my whole day is messed up because I'm here dwelling on it. I haven't meditated. I haven't done my
Yeah.
motivational
uh,
video.
I
And it
know.
just spirals. It's just, yeah.
Oh,
And
if I
those are
don't,
helpful too.
yeah, anything kind of out of routine, it's kind of like I don't know. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's almost like we need a little bit of routine, and anytime it goes off, it's like you want to be flexible, but
Yeah.
because you want to, is it flexibility makes you feel like you're laid back and things aren't
Mm,
as stressful? But
yeah.
then if you don't kind of have, like, if you miss
Hmm.
your journaling, if you miss your
Yeah.
exercise, if you miss your coffee, like even on a day, like let's say it gets too late and one thing out of your routine isn't done, because for me, it's like I read a daily Bible passage and I journal and I have coffee. And, there was a couple of days I didn't have coffee for 2 days and because I didn't feel like it. And, yeah, and it, that's kind of my self care, my self love. And when you
Mm,
don't do that for yourself, it impacts the rest of the day,
yeah.
you know? You don't feel like you kind of had that little time for you. And, I recommend it at the beginning of the day because it's very hard to get at the end of the day, um, when you should be kind of winding down. Your brain should be. I always say mornings are that output.
Mm,
You know, um,
yes.
for me at least. I try to, like I told my wife, I'm like I don't want to have serious decision making conversations at 8 p.m. when I'm trying to wind down and get to sleep by 10.
Yeah.
I'm trying to turn the day off.
Mm,
Those conversations and things need to be in the morning when I can do things about them.
yes.
Otherwise, it's just taking up space in my brain and now I can't sleep.
Mm. No, that's a
That's,
good, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, but it's taken me a long time to kind of understand it.
Mm,
And then it takes a whole other something to tell your wife who you've been with for 19 years,
it's a
that,
blessing.
hey, yeah, can we please not? I mean, it's just
Mm,
healthier for me.
yes.
Um, and it's hard because sometimes you feel like it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but there's something about just kind of setting a boundary for yourself, a
Yes. Mm-hmm.
self-respect thing. I am worth it. This matters to me. Um, yeah, you got to, even though it's hard.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Well, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Tell them where they can find you. Of course, I'm going to have it all in the show notes from the Podmatch profile, but tell everybody where they can find you and kind of if there's anything coming in the future.
Yes, first of all, it was such a privilege and honor to actually tell my story, and I'm so grateful that I was able to share some of my wisdom. And my hope is that if you're watching or listening, that you could realize that you are worthy to be here, and that you are enough, and you're not a mistake, and do not listen to anyone who says otherwise, regardless of your sexuality, because that's something that I felt strongly about the last few years, especially now
Yeah.
as I navigate this different,
Yeah.
journey that I'm on of self-discovery, and self-acceptance. And if you want to follow movement and music, um, also you can check me out on Rich Vision. So you could just Google Rich Vision,
And
R
that's
I C
Vision with a
H.
VY, right?
Yes, Vysion, RICHVYSION. It was just a definitely a privilege, and I want you to know that you're seen, heard, and understood.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your time with me and the
Thank you.
audience. Um, yeah. We gotta we gotta open the discussions or support one another. We just Everything doesn't need to be adversarial. Everything
Yeah.
we all have a same goal of we all get the same ending. So I don't know what we're fighting about. We need to be kind to each other along the way. We all got the same destination, so
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
none of us are free from it. But yeah, I always say go out and be the person that you would want to meet. And that's my
Mm.
call to action, and I think it's safe to say is like, hey, you know, you want respect, you give respect. You want kindness, be kind.
Yeah.
Um, Understand that regardless of our sexuality, our skin color, whatever, we all want to love and be loved. And we're just trying to do our best every day.
Mm.
And life is hard,
Yep.
and we make it harder on ourselves. And especially if, you realize how our pasts contribute to what goes on in our head. And that's hard enough. And then if you get the outside world telling you negative things too, it's just, oh, can feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And it's just not healthy. Because you know what? That's not what we're about. It's about helping each other together.
Yeah.
And the
I love
world is
that.
never more divided. And, it's been bumming me out for a week. So I'm grateful to have somebody on here who's, you know, another human being out there trying to make a difference and share positivity. Because that's the only way we're going to do it. We keep fighting over stupid bullshit. We're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Amen.
All right,
That's.
man. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a good evening. And I'll update everything through Podmatch.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
All right, man.
See you.
You have a good
Have a good
one.
day. You too.
Asteroid of fear.